What's going on, guys? My name is Mike and today we have another cool video. I'm excited to show you guys today's video. So excited that we are filming in my garage. It's springtime in New Jersey, but it's still winter outside. I don't think the weather got the memo that it's springtime yet. So without further ado, we're going to film this thing in my garage. Today we're going to be talking about worm castings and the creature that creates the worm casting itself, the worm. I just ordered a shipment or a delivery of red wiggler worms. Now what they do is they produce vermicompost, and now vermicompost is a fancy way of saying worm poop. These red wigglers, or these worms, they require a house to live in to produce these worm castings. And let me just go over what worm castings are. But before I do that, please like and subscribe. All support to this new channel is helpful. Even if it's just a simple like, it really does help out a lot, helps share the channel. Without further ado, let's jump right on into it. So, worms. I ordered a 2-pound sack of worms here from Uncle Jim's Worm Farm. Now, I don't have any kind of affiliate or association with Uncle Jim's Worm Farm, but I've ordered worms from them in the past, and they've always come, live and full. So I recommend this company, UncleJim'sWormFarm.com. You can find them on Google. So next, what is vermicompost, or what is a worm casting? Why do I care about it as a gardener? So what a worm casting is the poop of the worm itself.
Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and pause right there so I can flip to a page in this book here, Teeming with Microbes by Jeff Lowenfels and Wayne Lewis. This book is incredible. It's what I consider the Bible for organic gardening and just all soil information. This guy, Jeff Lowenfels, takes PhD knowledge and digests it down to what a normal person that could digest. So this is a really good book, guys. You can find this in my description below. So let's jump right into where he has an excerpt on vermicastings, or earthworm castings. I'm going to go ahead and just read some of the highlighted points I pulled out, but this section goes on and on. He has good illustrations. It's actually a whole chapter on earthworm castings, but just for the sake of time, I'm just going to read you this one paragraph here. So, vermicastings, the name given to worm poop, are 50% higher in organic matter than soil that has not moved through the worms. This is an astonishing increase and radically changes the composition of soil, increasing CEC because of the greater amount of charge holding organic surfaces. Other nutrients, therefore, have the ability to attach to the organic matter that has passed through the worm. The benefits don't stop there. The worm's digestive enzymes, or properly those produced by bacteria in the worm's intestines, unlock many of the chemical bonds that otherwise tie up nutrients to prevent their being plant available. Thus, vermicastings are as much as 7 times richer in phosphate than soil that has not been through the earthworm. They have 10 times the available potash, 5 times the nitrogen, 3 times the usable magnesium, and they are 1.5 times higher in calcium. All these nutrients bind onto organic matter in the fecal pellets, otherwise worm castings. Worms can deposit a staggering 10 to 15 tons of castings per acre on the surface annually. So that's just a little bit that I highlighted for you guys. I thought it was directly applicable to the video today. And once again, this book is called Teeming with Microbes, and you can find it down in the description below. It's pretty cheap on Amazon, so go ahead and take a look at that. Alright, let's get back to the video.
Now, what we do is we feed the worms an organic source of nutrition. They consume that, and through their digestive process, using enzymes and microbes and little gut creatures that they have inside of them, they convert the food into a casting, or worm poop. Now, what that is it's plant available nutrition. It's already pre-digested for the plant's root and the rhizosphere to absorb into the plant and take in as nitrogen, potassium, phosphate, phosphorus, and then convert that inside of themselves into what we see as plants and the growth of plants. So it all starts at the roots, guys, as you probably already know if you're watching this video. So what the worm casting is just a pre-digested form of nutrition and 100% organic as well. The worm casting also carries a ton of microbiology or microbes. Now these microbes are just as important as the nutrition to the plant itself. They're what's doing the transactions in the root system inside of the rhizosphere, which is right outside of the root system. That's like the marketplace, if you will, of the plant's roots. So the microbe goes in, it has nitrogen or potassium or what have you, and the plant has an exudate or a sugar. Now the microbe comes in, it eats that sugar that the plant is giving it, excretes or poops out its rich plant food. The plant then absorbs that excretion, and then the transaction is complete. That's it. It's just like going to the grocery store, guys, on a very, very, very small and a little bit gross way. But with that, I'm going off on the weeds here. Let's get back to the main course of the video. So, the worm bin itself. This is actually what the worms are going to live in. Now, this is just a simple bin that I picked up from Home Depot. I think it was like $8 or $6 on sale or something like that. It was relatively cheap, and you don't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. The criteria that the bin itself has to meet is it has to be large. I'd say anything more than 15 gallons, no more than 40 gallons. Obviously, that's too big. But it has to be big enough to fit the worms and their bedding. Now, that's the second piece of criteria. It has to be able to hold bedding. It can't have cracks or holes all over the place. You do want holes for aeration and oxygen to get in, but you don't want big cracks where the worms can then escape out of. You want to be able to contain these guys. And the third piece of criteria is you want it to be dark. You don't want a clear bin. You don't want light to show through. That's just going to cause problems for the worms. They don't like light. And they're not going to expand and explore as much as they would in a dark bin. So that's really about it, guys. It doesn't have to. You can do it in whatever you want. If you want to get a small amount of worms and do it in a 5-gallon bucket, by all means. I've heard of people putting their worm bins underneath their counter or their kitchen sink and just throwing food scraps in instead of to the garbage. That's the other benefit of having a worm bin is it's like a convenient compost pile that doesn't stink. It doesn't have bugs or anything flying around it. If you maintain it well enough, it'll stay. It won't ever smell. It'll actually have a pleasant smell of like fresh soil at the most. It'll consume all of your food waste. So any kind of organic there, and it doesn't have to be organic. It could be sweet potato rinds or the skin of any potatoes, any kind of, you cut the end of a cabbage or lettuce or it could be anything, guys, really anything. You just can't put meat, dairy, or sharp, large non-processed items or processed items. You don't want to add anything processed to your worm bin. Generally what I go is if it came from the earth, it can go back in. So any kind of plant matter, any kind of root or pith or really anything that's in the produce section can go in this worm bin, and the worms will eat it up, and they'll love it too, and they'll turn it into that rich worm castings that we're looking for that you can then put directly into your soil. So let's go over what we did here. So what I do is, as you can see in the bin, you might not be able to see that, I pre-drilled some holes in the top using just a drill. The drill bit, the size doesn't really matter at all. You just want to drill some holes in the top and around the sides so that you have aeration and fresh airflow through your bin. Aeration is very, very important. Oxygen is number one. We want to have an aerobic, rich environment for these worms and the bacteria that they're going to produce and live with to live in. You don't want to have anaerobic bacteria. Now what anaerobic conditions are is when there's a lack of oxygen, so it promotes the growth of bacteria that live without oxygen. Now, these are typically your bad guys, if you will. This is what makes a sour smell or a rotten smell. Like if you had food in a lunch container for too long in the refrigerator, you open it and it smells sour. The reason for that is there's no oxygen, and it promoted the growth of bacteria that create a foul smell. Now, what we do to create oxygen flow, and that is to just drill holes in your bin. You just simply drill holes, guys. It's not really rocket science here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the bin and I'm going to keep drilling holes. I want about, I don't know, 10 or 15 holes on each side. It really, you don't have to, you can do whatever you want. You just want to make sure that there's enough oxygen flow, and if you feel comfortable that you're getting enough oxygen, that's the best thing. So I drill the top, I drill the sides. I don't go crazy, but I make sure there's plenty of oxygen. So you could stay tuned. I'm going to zip right through this, guys. Alright, so I've gone around and I've drilled my holes. So that's that. We should have good oxygen flow coming into the bin. Next, what we're going to do is go over the bedding. Now, the bedding is very important. It's actually what the worms are going to be living in. So the worms themselves, as many of you know, they like to be covered. And what they're covered in is pretty important. Now, there's a broad range of things that you could use. Coco Coir is a good one that I've seen. I personally never used it. It's hard to get. I have to order it or something like that. Peat moss is good, although it has an acidic, it can be acidic, and the worms don't like acidity, but it is a good thing to do if you rinse it and drain it a little bit, flush it with water, and you can mix it up. Now, what I'm going to be using is peat moss and paper, just regular paper. So I ordered something online, and it came with a bunch of paper in it. Now, what you don't want is white paper, that bleached white paper. That bleach actually has a chemical reaction. Worms don't like bleach, as you could probably guess. So what I did was I took some of the brown packing paper that most shipping companies use, and I just shredded it up. I took some scissors, sat down with some YouTube in front of me or something like that, and shredded it up into a bunch of little tiny pieces, like you can see here. Now, I'm going to zoom you guys in so you can kind of see what I got going on inside of the bin and how I mix up my bedding for the worms to live in. So let's zoom you guys in here. Alright guys, so I hope that's a little bit of a better view there. I might be cut out of the screen. That's okay. What we're focusing on is the bin itself. So let's pop this open. And now, as you can see, I did drill my holes all the way through. And what I have in here is peat moss. This is just peat moss. I took a couple of handfuls. I rinsed it out. I let it dry a little bit in the sun. Now, there's not much sun outside right now, but this dried out for a day or two, and it's a nice damp texture. So this should be exactly what the worms are looking for. And I'll wet this down a little bit more once I get my paper in and mix that up. But I can feel it. I can compress it. It'll stick together. It's not too wet, but it's not dry like sawdust either. So that's important. You want to have a nice damp environment for the worms. Now what I take is just regular paper. It's like I just explained, this is just paper that was sent as packing to keep things from rattling around in a box. I just shredded this stuff up, and the worms love it. It holds moisture. It gives them a place to wiggle around and move. They actually eat this, although it doesn't have very much nutritional value. So what I do is I just take this paper, I just dump it in, just like that. Now I do about 50% paper, 50% peat moss. That's what I've done in the past, and actually in the past what I did, which was a mistake, was I added a bunch of extra stuff like leaf litter, which is good to use, but I got a lot of centipedes and a lot of other critters that I didn't necessarily want in my worm bin. So on this go around, what I'm going to try to do is just keep the worms and the food, or the food source that they eat, and that's it. I don't really want too many other critters living in my bin, because believe it or not, they kind of either will take over or compete with the worms for food. And what I'm looking for out of this bin is 100% worm castings. I'm not looking so much for ecosystem inside of my bin, although it is pretty cool to do. If you're into that and looking for a hobby, you can actually make this whole thing like a terrarium and a bunch of little critters running around. But in this context, we're just doing worm bins. So as you can see, I have my paper, I have my peat moss, and I'm just going to mix it up. Just going to mix this stuff together. Just with my hand, I'm not worried about it. I just want to get it all mixed together. I might add a little bit of more peat moss, but this actually doesn't look too bad. Yep, there we go. That actually looks pretty good. So, the worms will actually eat about 50% of the bedding and 50% of food. So they'll actually turn all of this into worm castings along with the food that I add. So by the time this is ready to harvest, I should have about double of the amount of stuff in this bin. But they'll slowly convert and I'll slowly feed the food that I'm giving them into worm castings. Another thing to note here is you do not want to add too much. You don't want to add too much bedding in, because what you're going to want to do is kind of push the bedding over and then add their food source in one side and then cover them back up. And then when it's time to harvest the worms, what you do is you'll push the food over to this side. You'll add the food in, all the worms will migrate to the food itself, and then you can harvest this side of the bin. So you can do like a two-part harvest to keep your worms in the bin and get the castings out, and then replace with more bedding and more food. Now these worms will self-regulate themselves as well as far as space is concerned. They will actually figure out how much space they have to live in, and then either populate or stop populating. They are asexual, so they don't really need to mate. They'll produce little eggs themselves, and when the time comes, we'll go over what the eggs look like in the bin. So, now, for the best part of all, we are going to now introduce the stars themselves. These are the worms. I ordered these from Uncle Jim's Worm Farm. Now, I'm not affiliated with Uncle Jim's Worm Farm by any means. I do have ordered them from Uncle Jim's in the past, and they've always come live and well and healthy. So definitely check this company out. Now there's a ton of other companies, and if you could find something local to you, someone who sells worms, that might be the best bet. This way you know where they're coming from, what they're using, and you can use the worm farmer himself as a resource for questions, concerns, etc. That's always better than trying to find things online on forums and stuff. But so here we go. Let me adjust the camera just so you guys can see what they look like when they come out. Before we add the worms, hopefully you guys can see a little bit better now. Before we add the worms, you want to kind of wet this down a little bit, get that paper kind of damp. You don't want to go overboard. I just take a water bottle, and as you can see, I just kind of douse down the paper, get it nice and moist, get it wet. This way, they like a damp environment, but not a wet environment. So I added the water there. I'm going to mix some of this up. Let's just integrate some of that moisture throughout so that it's not overwhelming. And now I always like to add a little, and then you could always go back and add more if you need to. Unfortunately, you can't go back if you add too much, so we go a little bit at a time. That feels about right. Feels like it's nice and damp. There we go. After the fun part, we are going to add our worms. So what you do here is you just simply dump them in, guys. Nothing crazy. All right. So what I did before, was I gave them actually a banana peel just to get started when they arrived. I knew that I had some work to do. I had to finish up, and I wanted them to get a hang of their, get some food in them and hold them over a little bit when you got them, because when they come, they're dehydrated. They're very small. Uncle Jim's ships basically dry bedding with the worms. It's just moist enough for them to survive a couple days en route, but not too long. Just for you don't want to be shipping water weight. So I understand on their point of view. But when you do get your worms, you're going to want to hydrate them and rehydrate them pretty quickly. What I like to do is I give them a banana, and they eat the banana. I drip a little bit of water in there so they get some moisture. And then that'll give you a good couple hours to prepare what you need to do, get done. Everybody has things to do. So as you can see, we dumped them in, and they're already starting to wiggle and move around. They're finding their way. I'm going to probably add just a little bit more water and then cover these guys up. And what I'll do is I'll put another banana, and I brought some banana with me because they do love banana. It's easy for them to eat. I take a whole banana, I kind of mush it with my hands, just mash it up a little bit, make it easy for them to get into, as you can see. So that's a nice mush right there. They'll get into it regardless, whether you put it in whole or not. I'm going to dig a little bit in here. I'm going to lay this stuff, drip it around kind of, just like that. And then I'll cover these worms right over it. See, that's a nice big ball of worm right there. Just lay them right in and cover them up with the peat moss and the paper. And I do the same. I have another banana. I'll do the same thing. I'll kind of break it, rip it. I'll take the plastic off this one. Forget if I got the plastic off that one, but I'll break this banana up, mush it around a little bit, and just kind of flop them in there. And they'll actually eat the peel and everything. They'll completely destroy this. So just like that, and then I'll cover it up with the bedding, and they'll find their way. They will certainly find their way. Now what I'm going to do is just add a little bit more water. I did add enough, but I'm starting to feel in the corners here, and it's pretty dry, so I'm going to definitely add a little bit more. So there we go. We have them covered up nice. And that's all it takes, guys. So thanks for coming along. This is really all it takes. We're just going to let this sit, and I'll give you guys updates. Hopefully we'll be outside next time if the weather clears up. And I'll show you guys exactly how to manage and maintain this bin. Now, for storage purposes, you want to keep them in a cool but not cold place and not hot place. The worms they'll survive in 40-degree weather, 40-degree temperatures, but that's not ideal. You want to keep them in about between 55 and 70 degrees is ideal for them. That's when they're most active. They will actually shut down at about, I don't know, 40 degrees. They'll start to slow down, and above like 85, 90 degrees, they'll slow down. So we try to keep them inside in a warm place and cover. I'll actually probably keep them in this shed here for the duration of their time until I get my garden bed built, and then I'll actually take this whole lump and put most of them into the garden bed. And another pro tip that I just remembered is, when you first add worms to a worm bin like this, they're gonna be a little explorative. They're gonna try to wiggle around and try to find their way around, and some of them you'll see will crawl up the side of the bin and try to escape this bin here. Don't worry about if that happens. That's normal. They usually do that, especially when they're introduced to a new place. It's so foreign. None of their biology and bacteria is here, so naturally they try to get out of there. So what we can do to kind of keep them contained for the first couple days until they're used to their new home is you just simply add some cardboard.
I have an old Amazon box here. I just ripped it up to fit this bin. And you just kind of add the cardboard right over top, just like so. And it'll help keep them contained, keep them down. It helps kind of make them feel a little safe, I like to think. You know, like a little roof over their head. And this way they'll have a harder time trying to come up and out and wiggle through these little air holes that I added over here and here. So yeah, this should help. Now, eventually they'll even eat this. This cardboard will become damp and moist. I'll add a little water over top, moving it around, picking it up. They'll actually find their way and they'll consume all this cardboard over time. It'll take a little while, but all these worms have is time. So once you add your cardboard over top, your worms are happy. You just simply add your bin over the top there. And that's the end of it, guys. We will definitely have some updates on these worms. Thanks for coming along. And that's about the end of the video here. So like and subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for coming along on this little journey here, this little tutorial on a how-to worm bin. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Take care.